Okay, everybody, this will be a unique video, and my question—it's a question, really, and it's just a visual question. Um, how does a city? I'm in Plovdiv, Bulgaria. How do they lose a theater? How do they lose the all the Roman ruins? How do they just disappear? Um, we just talked to the guy, and he said that the Plovdiv Theater was discovered in 1980, 89, and so 55 years ago they discovered it, and so then they had to dig it out, right? So 1985, but it was created in the first century AD. So what happened those 2,000 years? How does a Roman theater or a Roman Colosseum or a Roman anything, or Greek, or I don't care who makes it, how does something that's an ancient city or an ancient anything just up and disappear? You know, um, and so I kind of argue with myself, and I've had a discussion or two with friends. Well, okay, so they say, well, Plovdiv, wasn't always occupied. No, that's not true. This city's been here for a long, 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 long time. But let's take it a step up. What about Rome? So, I know that they just started putting in the C line, the Metro C line. And they have the A and B line, and even on those two lines, they've dug up things and seen ruins, and then poof, they have to change the whole direction of the line, or it can't continue, or they have to stop construction, or whatever. But they just were doing the C line, and they found this whole entire city ruins, excavation kind of thing, and had to stop the whole entire thing. Because there were ruins that they didn't find. You can't tell me that Rome wasn't inhabited all these years, right? I mean, that's just not possible. And so what about Paris? I mean, Paris, they find things all the time that are underground or whatever. And so how do they lose them? How do they get silted up or covered up or buried or whatever, without anybody knowing about it, or without any of it, being on record? And so, help me understand how you lose the whole theater. And so that guy said that as a kid, he grew up in this city. He didn't even know it was there until he was 20. And then they uncovered it, dug it out, and then he got to act on the stage here in Plovdiv. How is that possible? What about his mom and dad that lived here? What about his grandparents that lived here? What about all the people that lived here before him? Why don't they know it existed? I don't, I mean, okay, so do we say, okay, the rain for 40 days and 40 nights, it covered it all? Well, it's on top of a mountain. Okay, but the flood covered everything. Okay, fine. I mean, we can say that, but that would mean that every single person got killed, though, in the flood, right? And everything got started over. Tell me how you lose an ancient city, or an ancient part of a city, or a Colosseum, or anything, a Roman theater, or a bath, or any of these things. I mean, even what's the baths in Rome? Calicea? No, crap, I can't even remember. They had to dig that out, and that wasn't that old. And so, how do they go about losing these sites when people live here all these years? I guess I have a question. So tell me your answers. Tell me what you think. How can it happen? I get Pompeii. Pompeii, there was a volcano. Everything was covered up and it's gone. And so everything's buried. But they still knew it was there, Ephesus used to be on the sea, and now it's 13 miles away from the sea. And they're just now uncovering it. I don't understand how we lose things, Tell me what you think. Bye, everybody. Take this a step further. So let's make it personal. So think about where you live. So let's say you live in Tucson or Phoenix or Albania or wherever you live, or Romania, wherever. Imagine that your neighborhood in 1,000 years is buried in dirt and nobody even knows it existed. How does that happen? I mean, you can think that dust on top of dust on top of dust on top of dust on top of dust, and then before too long you have a mountain and everything's covered in dirt. I can't imagine. I mean, if you know there's a Roman theater that's amazing, how does it just up and disappear? So, okay, just more thoughts for you. Okay, so I think I've answered my own question over the course of my couple of miles walking home and thinking about all this. You ready for the answer on why we lose ancient places and ancient buildings and coliseums and theaters and all of these amazing things? Pyramids, the lion in the Egypt desert, the Sphinx, I'm sorry, because we don't care. Now let me explain that statement. We don't care because it's in our own backyard. It's not important to us. And so imagine you're a Roman back in the day. This is what you grew up with. That Colosseum is always there. That theater is always there. It's something you count on. The roads are always there. The buildings are always there. They're just part of life. It's a normal, everyday thing. You don't see it as a value. You don't recognize it as unique or different, because it's not. It's the exact same thing that you see everywhere you go. So if you're in Rome and you go to Venice, it's the same thing. Oh, it's a church. Oh, that's cool. Oh, look, it's a walkway. Oh, that's cool. Oh, look, it's another Colosseum. Oh, that's great. And then you go to some other place. You go to Milan. Oh, look, another church. Oh, look, yeah, and so it becomes run of the mill, and you no longer care, right? So imagine that in today's world, right? So let's say you had a car. If you had a Mustang or a GTO or a Chevelle or any of these wonderful cars, back in the 60s, they became a dime a dozen. It was no big deal, and you could buy one of these for a couple $1,000s back in the day. But now that they're rarer, now that they're harder to get, now they're $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 for a Camaro, and if it's in really good shape, $100,000. A Volkswagen Bug, brand new, didn't even cost $3,500 back in the day. But now they go for $12,000, $15,000, $18,000, $25,000. And why? Because now we care. But back then we didn't care. And that's really it. And so how does a city like Plovdiv lose that Colosseum or that theater? It's because they grew up with it. It's not important anymore. It's just run of the mill. You know what I mean? Oh yeah, that's that thing. Yeah. And all my travels. So I've gone to all the European countries and everything else. And I've gone to some places where you ask somebody where that is and they're like, why are you going there? And you're like, oh my God, you're kidding. Why would you ask that question? It's 2,000 years. Okay, but why are you going there? Because it's not important to you because you grew up with it. It's important to me because I have not a concept of that. And so that's really it. We don't care. We could have a car in our yard, a Pinto even, a piece of crap, nothing car, Pinto, and it gets buried, you know what I mean? And then what do you think they're going to think of that Pinto? I mean, to you, it's nothing. To your kids, it's not. They don't even want it. Nobody wants that car. But in 1,000 years, what do you think that Pinto is going to be like then? What do you think it's going to be worth then? So the bottom line is we lose antiquities. We lose things that are not really antiquities to us today because we don't care. Because they're just run of the mill. It's just standard operating procedure. It's nothing, It's like Stonehenge. I had a friend that lived in London and they'd been to Stonehenge once, but they'd never go back. And then their answer is, why would you go see it twice? You know what I mean? Well, oh my God, I've been there like 5 times. It's unique, it's crazy, it's different. Karnak, I mean, there's Ephesus. I mean, I've been to Ephesus probably 10 times. I'm going back to Rome, and I've lived there for years. But I'm still going to go see the Colosseum. I'm still going to go see the Borghese Theater. I'm still going to go see the Vatican. I'm still going to go see, all of those things. Why? Because they're not in my backyard. And I care. And just because you don't and it slides away, it can get silted over. It can get covered in dirt. It can get covered in mud. It doesn't have to be taken care of. It can disappear, and you don't care. That's the bottom line. We lose antiquities because we don't care.